Nau mahara mai te whānau i te hōtaka kōrero kia Oriwa. Ko Oriwa hau, tō kai kōrero i te ata. Ko te manuhiri o te wiki nei, ko ia he kai kākahu, ko ia he wahine toa. Ko Ngāti Hako, ko Ngāti Pāoa, Ngāti Ranginui Ngai Te Rangi o ngā hapu. Hara mai te toki, humie, huie, tai ki e. Tēnā koe e hoa, no mahara mai Jeanine. Kia ora, Jeanine, welcome so much. Ko wai koe, no whia koe, kōrero mai.
Ko rai o te papa te maunga, ko waiho te awa, ko tikapa te moana, ko te kōtahitanga te marae, ko Ngāti Hako te iwi, ko Pauratunga o Kutupuna, ko Jeanine Clarkin hau, ki tērā no te taho taku pāpa, no te taho taku māma, no Ngai Te Rangi, Ngāti Ranginui, me Raukawa, te kaukauroa pātatere.
Hey, ka pai e hoa. Tēnā koe. Ngā mihi nui kia koe i te ata ki te kōrero ki tō whakatūranga, me kōrero ko te kaimahi o te kakahu. Welcome so much, Jeanine. Everybody, I want to welcome to toioriwacreative, to Kōrero with Oriwa, our wonderful esteemed guest today. She's agreed to come online with me and talk to us about her fashion line that's been going on, her exhibition she's got down there at the Waikato Museum. And thank you so much for being a part of our day today, Jeanine. It's been wonderful to finally catch up with each other, even though it's via Zoom. Ka pai. So what brought this together, whānau, is a gathering of this wonderful exhibition that Jeanine has put together for us here in the Waikato region. It's called Te Aho Tapu Hou. Is that correct, Jeanine?
Ai, Te Aho Tapu Hou.
Before I get to go visit it over there at the Waikato Museum there in Kirikiriroa, I thought this would be a great opportunity for Jeanine to tell us a little bit about it. Kōrero mai tō exhibition, e hoa?
Kia ora, ai, so it's, kei te Waikato Museum. So I was invited by Māori Mills, the curator Māori there, and a couple of years ago, so it's taken a couple of years to put it all together. And what we hoped to do was capture the period in time where like Māori fashion and culture and has rejuvenated and changed. And I've been going officially in my label since 1994. And earlier than that, because I've just always been a sewer and designer.
I'm looking forward to going through and visiting the museum on probably Monday, sometime next week at the Waikato Museum, that is whānau. And to have a look at the exhibition. I'm really looking forward to it. So let us know, what do our whānau expect to see when they go visit the museum and see your exhibition?
Okay, so it's like a journey. It's called a survey show. So it's like a journey through my life of being a designer. So we start with my whānau and my mum, and all my aunties, as you know, were sewers, and they're very industrious. They either made cakes, sewed or knitted, and because we had so many aunties, each one would kind of specialize in their favorite thing. I have 8 brothers and sisters, so that's our whānau of 9. So my mum made all our clothes, or also we also had a recycling business, and so we had access to big huge sacks of rag bag clothes. So we had a barn full of rag bag clothes, so I could go and delve in there and choose out all these secondhand pieces and revamp them when I was a kid. And then also the other way we would get our clothes as hand-me-downs from our cousins. So thankfully my cousin who grew up in Tukaro, Kim Fraser, she was creative as well, and I got all of her hand-me-downs, and she also became a well-known designer as well. And then my auntie would, in Tiro, she would always knit. So for each of our cousins' birthdays, she would knit us a PORAKA, a jersey or cardi. And then my other cousins and aunties were like outworkers in factories, so they always had access. So sewing was just a permanent thing that was just around us all the time. So going through that part of the show, I was also lucky in my upbringing to have another auntie who had a bridal boutique. So I was able to go to her place after school and play with all the fabrics, and she would just allow me to play with them. I don't know if I was that much of a help to her, but she was definitely a help to me to allow me to play with them. So I'd get access to lace and silk and taffeta and all these fun evening wear type fabrics that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to access. So that's great. And so you will just see through there from, I was lucky in, this is in Taupo where we grew up. Then we moved to Paeroa, and in Paeroa I was once again able to meet another woman who had her own boutique in Paeroa downtown. So I'd wag school and go to her shop and make clothes. And if I wasn't wagging the school at her shop, I'd be wagging at the Kaumatua flats and just watching Days of Our Lives and Bold and the Beautiful, and just seeing all the Han Dynasty and seeing all the like glamorous clothes on there.
Oh, so, that's so interesting. Even though I was raised, I'm living in the area that you were brought up. However, I myself was raised in another country. I was raised in Australia, but you take the Māori out of Aotearoa, but the Māori's still there. And now I've come back to that same area, because that's how you and I got to meet, was actually in Pitareru of all places, right? Which you whakapapa back to, and you've got whānau there. But it's so interesting, because I was watching the same kind of things growing up in another country, looking at the glamour, looking at the different things, and coming, and we were all raised up with secondhand clothing. With everything that I've got on today is all secondhand clothing. That's just the way our mothers and our aunties were really resourceful, but we're still able to look sharp, right? And so it's been a mentality from a young child like you into our fashion statements as it is now. So I'm looking forward to seeing that mode of difference from your point of view going through your exhibition. So that should be really good. The new sacred thread, is that correct?
Right, TEINA.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Te Aho Tapu Hou, the new sacred thread, Jeanine Clarkin, fashion activist.
Well, that's my next step.
Full name. I
was reading the brief that you had sent me, and that what really came forward was that title. I really like that, fashion activist. And I'm going to go on to the topics that I really wanted to discuss with you, how that fashion activist came about for yourself, and the 3 questions you had there to provoke thought, which I'll mention now. How cultural identity affects the way we present ourselves to the world, how the clothes we wear impact our environment, and how we dressed in the recent past as opposed to how we dress now in the future, with an awareness of empowering aspirations. Could you give me a little insight on what you were talking about there, please? Kōrero mai.
So, as I said, we grew up in small towns, and in the 70s and 80s, and our Māori news wasn't as out there as it is today. So we just toddled along, and once a year we'd have Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori at school, and they'd like sing mehe manu rere and make a kono, and that was about the only communal Māori event that would be celebrated there. And then aside from that, we'd go to the marae, which we're in Taupo, so we'd go back to Paeroa or Okoroere for just to our marae, but that was fairly irregular intervals. And then so the only real Māoriness was kind of something that would be for a special occasion. It wasn't really, I didn't really at that time think it was like an everyday thing. And as far as the clothing goes, I'd see like the politicians, like, and Tirikatene Sullivan and Te Hemera, Eva Rickard, they'll be wearing these beautiful clothes, and then would see the Māori volcanics and the kapahaka, and that was the only real chance that we would see our Māoriness expressed in how we dressed. And so when I moved from Taupo up to around the block a few times and up to Auckland, I kind of saw the greater Polynesian community and the Indian community, and I could see how they were able to wear their, not cultural uniform, but their beautiful taonga on a daily basis. And we didn't really have anything like that, and we couldn't really wear our pupu downtown every day, although some people did. And I was kind of grappling to create, well, I used my design status to create a non-verbal way of expressing who we are. So thankfully through Te Wānanga Aotearoa and Bakanin and Ngā Puna Waihanga o Tainui, I was able to meet with artists who therefore shared with me different tohu and that I could therefore bring into my clothing. So that happened in 1994, was through Ngā Puna Waihanga o Tainui. We all went down to Parihaka, and I had created some garments using taniko print from Matt Choate, and I launched my label, which was targeting streetwear for rangatahi, because I was 24. So I really wanted to create something that could be visibly Māori when we walked around, because as you can see, most Māori can pass for any look. And I was often getting congratulated for being an islander, but I was like, no, I'm a Māori. So I have these big like this, big designs that only a Māori would wear. I was like, then I was unmistakably Māori, and that kind of created a whole following.
Ka pai, I totally agree with you, and especially being raised myself overseas and being asked or whether I was this culture or that culture, and being totally, proud of being Māori. I'm grateful that we're able to identify in that way with using our kakahu as a non-verbal, besides our kiri, and things like that. Obviously, how many blue-headed Māoris are walking around, we could be of any culture. But that does give us an identity, which I like to be associated with, of course. It's like, oh yeah, and just paying homage to those kōwhaiwhai of our tūpuna. Because it comes as an artist with painters, as you can see, we're all inspired by our designs, by our tūpuna kōwhaiwhai, tāniko pattern, and carvings and everything like that inspire us. And as we are giving it out to the world, being able to have the information behind those designs, so it can't be like misappropriated, if that makes sense. With all our, now anyone can copy the designs and put them all over the place. So with me, when it comes to our identification as Māori designs, is to educate those about where those designs can be placed, even on the kākahu, those, even the simplest but most tikanga things for us as whānau. Tēnā koe. I was also looking through the brief, because this was just going to be a short interview, because I'm going to get back with you and do follow-ups and show some of I'm going to go down and take some video and some photos at the Waikato Museum. But I was really intrigued with the one of your aspirations that I wanted you to just share a little bit, because I know there's a big kaupapa behind it, about the Jeanine Clarkin School of Indigenous Fashion Design. Can you give us a bit of insight on what that dream looks like for you? Just in, what you can share with us today.
Yes, I thought it was really important, and especially with my travels around the world, and I've been invited to speak in many places and inside fashion schools and things. So I thought that was a great idea to start looking into a specific kura of my way of thinking, my mātauranga Māori and direction. With all my worldly travels and collaborations with other Indigenous people, it became more aware how even more special we are. I already knew this, but you know, the more places you go and the more you share and the more beautiful it is. Yes. And so I thought that it would be great to consolidate the collective thinking within the Mātauranga Māori and within a Mātauranga Māori space. And I see that like WāNANGA, Aotearoa, and they've all, we've got it for the arts.
Yes.
But just to into the fashion to really compatible, represent each other. And so it's just part of the development, empowerment and succession planning for the future, and to giving our people coming through with their rangatahi or with their second time round career, wahine going to have a change of pace, just giving them a easier road, a bit of accelerating their experience and just paving the path, because as I said, when we were young, we had there was never the idea to be a fashion designer. You could be a machinist in a factory, but to think you could be a designer was never thought of. And now it's become a really achievable, attainable goal for many people now. So
I'd have to agree. I think with the technologies, even with the Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, I've come out of a student from Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, and having those opportunities where we can utilise our mātauranga for our future life sustenance. And that's what's been able to come out of that. I look forward to seeing those kind of schools headed up by Māori, like yourselves, those kind of institutions, because they do come off the different kaupapa. It's one thing learning, you know, te reo, it's learning this, but it is coming with our tikanga as well, you know, and that's a really important part of who we are as Māori, to be able to share the wholeness of who we are and not just parts and parcels of who we are, right? Because it's what you're doing today, what I believe I'm doing today, and the rangatahi of tomorrow are actually, we're walking marae. We are the marae. We're the visual of what people see us from around the world, what we learn on our marae, even amongst our whānau. Even though I myself was raised overseas, I was still raised in tikanga, amazingly enough, in another country. So that never loses with us. So I'm looking forward to seeing how your fashion design schools and many more schools, because our creatives like yourself need that tautoko, that tuakana TEINA partnership. And that's what I believe, you know, your School of Indigenous Fashion Design would be all about too, is being that tuakana for the up and coming fashion design, you know, be able to help us and cooperate, and, you know, with the new rangatahi, imagining what they're going to be creating. Whoa, it's just absolutely mind-boggling. So thanks for sharing that little bit, and I look forward to, you know, keeping track on how that goes for you, and how we can be of a creative service along those lines. You know, because I'm a big fashionista. Oh, you know, I wear all the Nicola Tikiris, I wear all our own home. My sister made these ones. You know, I'm a big Aho boutique supporter. Anything in Te Ao Māori, I like to support those designers of that's paved the way for us, and those designers that are up and coming. It's what it's all about. So before we end, I wanted to go through some rapid questions with you.
Yeah.
And see how you go with that, eh? Because I like to end with this, because it's going to kind of up the cup. If you weren't a fashion activist designer, what would be your occupation?
I wanted to be a hairdresser.
Right, next best thing. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I would just say that you're doing great and carry on and go with your gut instincts. And yeah,
Kapai.
I was pretty cool when I was 20.
And nothing changes, eh? You tell all those wahine out there, nothing changes. You can still maintain being cool. I've just turned the big 5-1 the other day, so nothing changes. It just gets better and sweeter. That's what I tell myself to keep on moving forward, right? What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last 12 months?
In the last 12 months? Well, we've been in COVID for half of that time. So yeah, you can do it, stay focused, you maintain connections. Yeah, but pretty much.
Well, I've been following you on Facebook as well, because we're Facebook friends over there at Waiheke Island. And how do you practice self-care besides looking outside the window and seeing that beautiful island you live on?
Yeah, so I go down to the moana a lot most days. I have all these little rituals that I do on a daily time, and so it gives me I find if I do to do all the set things, and then that gives me time to be spontaneous later.
Yes, ka pai.
I have all, yeah, so yeah, it's so beautiful living by the moana and by our tupuna maunga. So I go down and hang out in the tataiao and go down to the moana most days, and definitely in the summer I go swimming every morning at like 8 a.m, which is really meditative. And so I just have all these little tikanga that I set out, and then that gives me time to be spontaneous later on whenever I need to be. And so yes, balance between scheduling and free time.
Ka pai, ka pai. And my last question, Te wiki o te reo Māori, do you have your most favourite Māori word, and what would that be?
I like koa, just because for joy, because it's just so happy. Just, I like the tone of it.
Ai, kei te tangata hari kōkoe, he tangata hari kōkoe. Yeah, that's a nice one. Ka pai e hoa, I've been noticing that that you have been doing your Te wiki o te reo Māori. How does that feel, coming from not ever speaking te reo Māori in public like we used to do, to now we're doing it online and we're just promoting it, and I'm hearing it everywhere, which really fills my heart up, eh? Totally fills my heart. How does it feel for you? Yeah,
it's really beautiful. It's a bit annoying this week because of the lockdown, so we can't actually go out and see people, but yeah, it's great having the all the socials to see everything happening on. Yeah, so it's just pai ki te whakarunga ki tēnā. Because even, although here on Waiheke, there's very limited reo as well. So I think, yeah, I look forward to the day when we don't need to wiki o te reo Māori, because we're all just already in it all the time. Ai, haere tonu te reo Māori anake, haere tonu te reo, you know, and we don't, yeah, it's making it a part of our daily lives. And the wiki o te reo Māori, getting everyone involved was really, really cool. And it's going to be one day when we're going to be queer. Hopefully we make it to our queer status, right? With our mokopuna, and being able to just, you know, kōrero te reo Māori anake, just like our tupuna before us. What a day that would be. What a day that would be. Engari, whakamutunge tēnei kōrero, ngā mihi nui kia koe. Before we end, I just want to end with a whakatauki, POIPOIA te KΑKANO, kia PUAWAI.